Today's video is for a workshop, make your own Scrubby, but really it's also an introduction to how to make the magic circle. And the circle is the basis for many different things, from hats to stuffies, to all manner of things. Because this textured yarn is still not as visible as a solid yarn, I'm going to demonstrate at first using a solid yarn. If you have never single crocheted before, I have a video called How to Change Stitches. It's on my YouTube channel, which is called Doreen Cool. It doesn't have a fancy name at this point. And there is a good reference for how to hold your yarn and how to form your stitches. It is also pasted on Embellish Co. Facebook page. And so it's embellish and then CO with a period. I'm just going to demonstrate single crochet at this point. That's the basic stitch used to create a magic circle, and in our case, the Scrubby. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the top of the crochet work, and you can see that there are these horizontal stitches. If you look at it from a bird's eye view, not like this, but from the top, and you can see there's loops here. First you insert your hook, then you grab the yarn, pull it through, and then you grab the yarn again with your hook and you pull it through both stitches that are on the hook. So in, through again. And then in a second movement, I turn those two loops into one. You go into the single crochet that is next, facing you, and you can see them because they're kind of like flattened loops. So I'm going under there, pull your yarn through so that you have two loops on your hook, and then when you bring them together in one motion, I think that's why it's called a single crochet, because double crochet takes more than one motion. So repeat under the V. I'm calling that a V. It's not really, but it's like a flattened loop. And then pull your yarn through, and then pull your yarn through both of those, and that's a single crochet. And now, because I want to increase a stitch, I'm going to go into the same loop and make a single crochet. Something I would like to explain is that we're going to be using a repeat of 7 stitches. By that I mean around the center we're going to single crochet 7 stitches, and then progressively we're going to add 7 stitches in each row. The first ring will be 7 stitches. In the second ring we will increase an extra stitch into each stitch to have 14 stitches. The third ring we will increase every second stitch, so it's like 1, 2, 3. Third one being your increased stitch, so that we have 21 stitches. The next row will be 28 stitches, so you'll be single crochet, and then 3, 4. Fourth stitch being an increased stitch in the third regular single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First thing that you're going to do is you're going to create a slip stitch. So you make a loop over your finger, and then you're going to take a folded edge, poke it through the loop, grab it, and that's called a slip knot. And now I'm going to chain 3 or 4 stitches. I think I'll go with 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that I've chained a few stitches, what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the two ends of the chain with a slip stitch, which means I'm just pulling the yarn through both of those chain stitches, the first one and the last one. Now I'm going to, what I call a riser, because you're going up a level, so you need 1 stitch to give you a little bit of height. Then I'm going to single crochet 7 times into this ring. So that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and let's just count them to make sure I know we have 7, but let's just double check. And the way to count them is to look at them from kind of bird's eye view at the edge, and then you can see a loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I guess I need to do one more just for that number 7. Close the circle. I'm going to go into the first single crochet stitch I formed, pull the yarn through, and just all the way through, and that's called a slip stitch. And now I'm going to create my riser again, and I'm going to now do an increase row where I knit 2 stitches into each of these single crochets so that I end up with an increment of 7. I'm going to have 14 stitches. And I'm going to do 1 stitch where I began, so into the same stitch that I slip stitched. And this is the riser, and there's my first stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, I think that was 11, but let's double check. It gives us practice with counting. So this was the riser. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes. And if you get the riser and the single crochet stitch confused at the beginning, it's not going to matter that much. And I'm going to repeat this. Take 1 stitch as a riser, and I am going to go into that same stitch. So that's my first stitch. And now number 3 is my increase stitch. So I'm going to go into the same single crochet to get my number 3. So it's like 1, 2, 3. And let's just keep counting because it's really easy to count in multiples of 3. So this is 4, 5, 6. 5 and 6 are in the same single crochet. Number 6 is the increase stitch. So you add 7 stitches each round, and that means that the number of stitches that you stitch before increases with each round. So that was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is a multiple of 3. Same as going 1, 2, 3. We just did 7, 8, 9. 10, 11, 12 are going to happen in the same stitch. There's 11, there's 12, and here's 13, 14, and 15. 15 being my increase stitch. 16 is by itself in 1 single crochet. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. What I want you to do is, until your pattern is established and you can start to see the ribs and it becomes more clear, just count, but it actually worked out. So there's my number 21. And now I'm not counting like 4, 8, 12. I'm just counting my number of stitches each time. As they line up, then you get this ribbed appearance. And it just has a neater appearance, and you have a sense that you're doing it correctly. Now, in a scrunchie, you can still kind of see that, but because of the texture, you don't have to worry about it. Just kind of make sure you end up with increments of 7. So on this row, because it's 7 times 4, I want at the end have 28 stitches. Now I'm going to show you the same effect using the textured yarn. I'm going to begin in the same way, creating a loop. So I've made my slip knot, and I'm going to crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to find that first stitch, pull the yarn through both in one step, create my riser, which is just chain 1, and then find the center. And already you can see in the texture it's a little hard to find the center, but if you get a different center, that doesn't matter either. So now I'm going to crochet 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice I'm catching that end. 5, 6, 7. Let's count to check. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next step is to close my ring with the slip stitch. So if I look at it, that looks like the riser, or this does. I think this looks like the first true single crochet stitch. I might have missed part of that stitch, it doesn't matter. Slip stitch it shut. Take a riser stitch, and then I'm going to go into the stitch next to it. And I'm going to do that twice because my second stitch is an increase. And then looking at it, I can see that that is my next stitch. This looks like my first stitch. And you can actually see that 2 and 3 are coming out of the same opening. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, I might have forgot to increase. 1, 2, and 3 are the same. 3, same stitch, 3 being the increase. I've come around all the way. This looks like the riser. This looks like the increase. So it's this one that I want to slip stitch into. There we go. Riser. Looking ahead, there's 1 and there's 2 and 3. So in this one, I'm going to create 3 and 4. Go all the way around and make any corrections at the end. If you need to add a stitch, add a stitch. If you need to not increase, then don't increase. So there's my riser and first stitch, 2, 3, and number 4 is my increased stitch, so it goes into the same bottom stitch as number 3. So we start again. 1, 2, 3, and number 4 is going to be the same place. The size of these is, I went to a row where I was increasing to number 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish 2 circles and then show you how to put them together. At this point, I have completed one side of the scrubby entirely, and I've left a little bit of work to do on the second one to demonstrate to you. And one of the things that you need to know is if you are called away from your work and you come back, you pick it up, even though you were counting, you've forgotten where you left off. So a big clue is if you look carefully, you can see that there's one single crochet represented by 2 green lines out of 1 single crochet below. Here, there are 2. So there's like a V of light green, and that represents your regular stitch plus your increased stitch. I'm at the point where I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 5, 6, 6 is my increased stitch. So that means that this next stitch is number 1. And if I'm going to carry on, I'm at number 2. 3, 4, and this will be 5, 6. And sure enough, it lines up above a regular stitch and an increased stitch. So I'm going to repeat that. 5 and 6 out of the same stitch to create an increase. Carrying on, and my last stretch, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to make a mistake here on purpose to show you. Oops, I only grabbed the light green and not the dark green. In this scrubby, it's not going to matter. I think that was 4. Let me check. There's my double. So 1, 2, 3. This is number 4, 5, 6. And I'm arrived back to where I began. There's the slip stitch below everything. There's the riser stitch. So I'm going to slip into the first stitch of this row. All right, now it's time to combine the two halves to make a nice thick scrubby. This shape would be not hexagonal because that would be 8 sides. This would be, I think, heptagonal, but I stand to be corrected on that. The significance to me is not the number so much at this point as the shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place, first of all, the wrong sides together, and the wrong sides are the one where the yarn is protruding. So put the wrong sides together so that the right sides are facing out. And because there's this 7-sided shape, I'm going to kind of line up those corners, roughly like that. And now to join them, you don't have to sew them. What you're going to do is you're going to single crochet, and then you're going to go into the one across from you, and you are now going to single crochet them together. So there's my first movement, and then my yarn coming through everything. Where do I have that extra? Okay. So I'm kind of choosing the corner of a semi-corner, bringing my yarn through both of the lower single crochets. This is at a corner or a peak where the 7 stitches meet, and I'm going to line it up with another like corner. If you don't do this, it's okay. It's not going to really show. Do whatever kind of makes sense to you. I'm going to go across, grabbing a single crochet off of the other half. Where's my yarns? There we go. And then I'm going to pull the yarn through, and then I'm going to single crochet, joining the two halves together. So again, in, cross, through, and if you've lost track of what stitch you were in last, you can kind of see, well, I was in that one last, so that means I want to go in this one next. And you can adjust. If you skip a stitch, it's not going to really show in this project. And you'll notice too that the single crochets are facing you. It's easy to see. These others, you might need to tilt them a little bit to see them properly. And it looks like my corners are lining up pretty good. Good, so I'm going to continue. Every now and then, check which stitch you went into last. So it was that one, so I want this one. And this is a nice no-sew method for combining crocheted pieces. You can do this method. This method is used often. You can join granny squares with them to make a piece of fabric or a blanket. There's different ways of doing it. You can just slip stitch them together rather than single crochet them. That's one option. Now I'm coming up upon the place where that yarn is. So just give it a little tug. That's the loose end of the first half of the scrunchie. Just give it a little tug and continue. Little tug and put it to the inside. And continue around. Nothing really changes. Oh. And if it seems like your corners have shifted or anything like that, which I don't know if they have or they haven't, then you can always, let's say they have, and I think maybe they have. So what I'm going to do to kind of like realign them, I'm going to go into the next single crochet here, but then I'm going to go into the one where I just single crochet. So it's kind of like a doubling up, and it might just be, but it seems like those corners are lining up well again. Now, just to see where I am, I'm kind of sticking my finger into the little gap, and I can tell I've got, I think, just 2 stitches left. And I'm a stitch, I think. I can't even see the back, but I'll find something to attach it to. There we go. All right, now you're just going to pull your yarn a bit through, then snip it, and pull it all the way through. And again, keeping this a no-sew project, you can use your crochet hook. I'm just going to come through this hole, hook my yarn, pull it through, and then I don't want it coming out of the hole, so kind of reversing it where I'm coming up through the hole, pulling it through, and done. And these are great. You can use pretty colors and keep them in the bathroom for exfoliating, or you can make them darker colors and more durable, keep them in the kitchen for scrubbing, or in the bathroom for scrubbing. But there we have a nice little introduction to how to make a circle. Crochet, it's often called a magic circle, and it's the basis for many different projects. Because you are going up a level, what I'd like you to do is just chain 1. You have a loop on your hook, just form a second loop onto your hook. And then that first loop forms like what I call a riser stitch. So you can see that those horizontal flat stitches still exist. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the stitch that this loop was coming out of again, and now I've kind of replaced that stitch by adding a stitch on top, and then once more into each stitch, once, pull the yarn through, pull the yarn through again, go in below what I think you could describe as a flattened loop, then pull your yarn through and through again. And that is how you single crochet. And you could keep going, maintaining. I had 10 stitches, so if I'm careful to maintain my 10 stitches, then I would just form a rectangle. Crochet is very sculptural, and you can do all manner of things with it. To begin your magic circle, you wrap the yarn around your finger, and then you push the yarn through that loop to create a new loop and tighten. What I'm going to do now is chain some stitches, bring them together to form a loop that becomes the center of the magic ring. I'm going to use 4 stitches. the number of stitches you use affects the size of that opening. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now to join the ring, just go insert your hook into the first chain stitch that you formed, and then pull the yarn through both of them in one movement. That's called a slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain 1, and that's going to be kind of my riser. Now I'm going to go into the center of the ring that I have formed and do a single crochet. So 1 stitch, and there's the flat top of that stitch. Repeat that 7 times. So that was the first one, 2, 3, 4. Now one other detail is as I crochet, I'm binding my loose end inside my stitches. So this is 5, 6, 7. And now it's time to make a slip stitch to close my circle again. So that's the riser. This is the riser. These 2 flat stitches are my first stitch. I'm going to go under them, grab my yarn, and pull it through all the stitches, because that's a slip stitch to close my circle. At this point, I can tug this end, and that will tighten the circle and close it. And also, because I've trapped it, I don't have to leave a long end, because it is basically has been bound off by my stitches. So again, riser stitch, and now I'm going to go into the same stitch. Counting is important. It's sometimes hard to predict exactly how many stitches you have. After a few rows, you will see the pattern and you won't have to count anymore. But at the beginning, counting is important. So this next stitch, I'm going to increase. I'm going to take 1 regular stitch. I'm going to go back in the same stitch, and where there was 1, I now have 2 stitches. In, moving on to the next stitch. Again, take 2 stitches. I'm nearing the place I began. I can see that I have 2 stitches left here. So again, I'm increasing. I've been consistently stitching 2 single crochets into each stitch. I'm going to do 2 here as well. And now I'm going to count my stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now I'm going to close my circle by inserting the hook into the first stitch, pull the yarn through. All right, riser stitch. Well, in this row, you're not going to increase with every stitch. That was 1, and then in this stitch, I'm going to do 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to repeat again. 1, single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2, 3. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Get a bit of a rhythm. Although when it's low numbers, you could also count by the increment. So that was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, because it's the third stitch, will be into that same stitch. 15, 1 single crochet, 16, 17, 18 are going to be in the same stitch. That was 17, this is 18, 19 is by itself, 20, 21. Next row, slip stitch, riser stitch. Now I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3. The 4th stitch is an increase. It goes into that same stitch. Or you could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, depending on how you want to count. 9, 10, and then 11, 12 are going to be in the same stitch. 11, 12 being the increase. So you can see that this is staying flat. Now, when you're doing your scrubby, the nice thing is if you make a mistake, it's not going to show. And if you, for example, miss going into under the full loop and you just catch one of these, this one, or the back one, this one, but it's not going to matter. It's not going to show in this textured yarn, right?